Hey y'all, Jonathan of Race Kiki here, and welcome. This is my latest episode with the incredibly talented, fantastically humorous Charles Sanchez. Humorous. I should have used hilarious. I think hilarious is a better word. Humorous feels stuffy. Charles is hilarious. He's a writer, he's an actor. He has a web series called Merce the Series. Find it on YouTube. I'm sorry, it's on mercetheseries.com. Find it. It's so funny. He writes for The Body. He's a fifth generation Mexican American, and we chat race in America. This is a good chat, y'all. It's real funny. I hope you enjoy. Like and subscribe. Hey, Charles. Welcome to Race Kikis.
Thanks. Happy to be here.
So, congratulations, by the way. I love that More You Ho drop today. It is so adorable.
Thank you. There's more to come. It's a whole campaign.
I'm very excited. Tell me some more about that.
My production company, Skipping Boys, got a grant from the Healthy Voices Impact Fund, which is sponsored by Janssen Pharmaceuticals and Johnson & Johnson, to create an HIV awareness campaign. And we decided that we wanted it to be within the world of my web series, Merce. So we wanted it to be funny and campy and honest. So when I say we, I mean me. I wrote 7 PSAs, public service announcements, in the style of The More You Know, those little videos in the 90s. And so we did 7 of those in the world of Merce, and then there's one whole song that's going to come out next Tuesday on the 23rd of February.
Okay.
The song is called The More You Can Ho. And the idea behind the campaign is the more you know about HIV and sexual health, the more you can go out and, have a good time.
The more you can go out and have a good time when we're not in a coronavirus.
That's someone else's job. Coronavirus is someone else has written an article about it. They're doing videos. There's a whole thing. That's not
You're like, look, they gave me one job to do this, to promote safety.
Right. I'm also not talking about gonorrhea.
No.
I'm not talking about herpes. I'm not talking about
syphilis. I'm not talking about, all the ones from back in our day.
I'm all about the HIV.
All about the HIV. So, as an introductory question to my conversations, when did you learn about race?
When did I learn about race? I don't really even know. Like, there wasn't a day that I got the pamphlet. I do know that, like, I'm a Mexican American, but I'm 5th generation American. And I knew that we were different from other kids, in my neighborhood. I grew up in a predominantly white neighborhood in Phoenix, Arizona. So I knew that we were just different, and I didn't know that it was particularly race that made us different. But I did know, like, there was a time later in my life that I remember my parents telling us that they were racist and that they knew that racism was wrong, and so they didn't want to teach us their racism. So I found that really to be interesting. And I remember stories that my dad told. My parents grew up in a very small town in Colorado, where the majority of people who lived in this town were Mexican American, but the people who had all the money were white. And my dad told this story about my grandfather taking my dad, and, like, I have like 7 or 8 uncles on that side. Like, I have a big family. So all the kids, and 9 of them probably walking into this movie theater, and them going and sitting down, and the usher coming and saying to my grandfather, Mr. Sanchez, you're sitting on the wrong side. and my grandfather going, "Oh, we're leaving. Everybody up!" and which I love. I love that story. And I feel like, oh, that's got to be in me somewhere, right? That kind of
just like the fire.
Yeah. So I think like racism, I don't know that I was ever like taught about it. I think I was taught how to live in it. Like, my parents didn't teach us how to speak Spanish because they didn't want us to be different. They taught us a lot that our heritage was American. We are Americans. And so don't ever let anybody tell you that you are not. Your heritage is George Washington. And it wasn't until much later that I really embraced myself as being a Mexican person, and feeling like the best parts of me are because I'm Mexican. I have fabulous hair. It's because I'm Mexican. If I'm funny, if I'm creative, if I'm artistic, if I'm funny, I said funny twice, but all those things I'm really fucking funny. But all the best things about me, if I'm passionate, if I'm a good lover, if I'm an amazing kisser, all those things are because I'm Mexican. And Mexican specifically, not just Hispanic, which I hate. I hate being called Hispanic because there's no Hispania.
No, there is no Hispania.
Right? And I don't want to be called anything that's a panic, unless they say, oh, that Charles, he's a panic. But I don't want Hispanic. Like, no, I don't want to scare anybody.
What about Latino?
I like Latino.
You like Latino?
I like Latino. I think Latino is sexy. Like, I don't even like the Latinx, which I know it's popular with the kids, and that's cool. And I use it professionally. But if someone's going to refer to me, Latino or Mexican American.
Did your okay, so your family didn't teach you Spanish. Did you learn it in your adult life?
No, it's one of my big regrets. I didn't learn, I didn't take it in high school, because I wanted to be in music classes and I wanted to do other things like creative stuff. And then later it just seemed like, I'm not going to spend my time doing that. I'm not going to need it. And now I'm like, oh, I really wish I had. It's a huge regret. And I think learning another language, even whether it's your own or whether it just gives you a global outlook. It gives you a bigger outlook on the world. And it's not just us. It's not just America first. It's not just, I think we have a bigger point of view if you know another language, if you have another culture in your life that you think about.
I always have an interesting conversation in my head because I'm from Mississippi, but when I was 24 years old, I got into a car accident and I wiped out a bunch of my childhood memories. So when I woke up, everything around me was white. So I lost all of the connection to my Blackness for years, or like decades.
Wow.
And so in this, I've been like gravitating more toward this, everything I love about who I am, much like you said, everything you love about you is because of you're Mexican. Everything that I enjoy about me is because I'm an American descendant of slavery. And it is the color of my skin, the texture of my hair, the sound of my voice, the passion in which I speak, it's all there.
So when you woke up, did you used to have a Mississippi accent and then you woke up and you didn't have it anymore, or?
To my understanding, I've spoken the way that I do since I was like 12 years old, to my understanding.
I would love that story though. In my head, like that's a great story. Like you used to wake up, you were from Mississippi,
and I just sounded just like this.
And then all of a sudden you woke up and you don't know what corn pone is. You have no idea. Who are these people?
Who are heavens? Shiver me timbers, I do declare.
Right. I don't know you. I am not from you. I am somebody bring me the menu, right?
Like chitterlings. What are those?
Mm-mm,
Right
no.
after my accident, somewhere around that, my father passed away, and I had to go to Mississippi to. No, I'm sorry, that wasn't my father. It was my great grandmother that passed away, and I went down to Mississippi for the funeral. While I was in Mississippi, my older sister said, let's go over to our grandmother's house, my father's mother's house. So go over. And at this time, I was a full-fledged, active vegetarian. Active vegetarian.
Promoting.
Just no, and not, you know how when you become a vegetarian and you're just looking down your nose at everybody?
Oh, yeah.
I was her.
I'm sure. And and don't get me started on vegans.
Oh, I've been there. Been there. And this, oh, well, on a completely separate story, there's I went to this vegan party back when I was vegan, and I was carrying my couscous in a Louis Vuitton bag.
That is the title of something, girl. Carrying my couscous in my Louis Vuitton bag.
And then one of the girls says to
Country
me,
song.
no, she says, oh my God, I love that vegan bag. I was like, Louis Vuitton doesn't make vegan. I was never invited back.
I might eat vegan, but I don't carry.
I'm like, no, girl, how dare you? Somebody's gonna eat this. If somebody's gonna eat it, I don't have to eat it, but it died anyway. Can't I wear it?
And it looks good.
It's
looks
cute.
Good.
Anyway, so I go with my older sister to my father's mother's house, and you know, when you go into the South, your grandmother always has something fixing in the kitchen. And she had ham and turkey and gravy and like ribs and chitlins and hog mugs, and she just had all this spread and cabbage greens and everything.
Right, everything had pork in it.
Everything had pork in it. And so I go in and I say, grandma, my grandmother says, baby, can I fix you a plate? I was like, no, grandma, I don't want anything. And you know, that is not an answer. You can't tell your grandmother no. However, at this particular time in my life, I had no real attachment to this woman. So it was just some woman that was related to me from a man that I didn't remember.
Right.
So she says, well, I'm gonna just make you a small plate. And she comes back with like ribs and like a that big ass thing of turkey, you know, where you slice it and that center bone is right there. And she had that on there, and there was some macaroni and cheese piled on top with bacon bits for some reason.
Oh, yeah.
And then there was like cabbage greens with like fat back in it. And then there was, and I look at her, and as honestly as I knew how, and I said, I'm a vegetarian. And she says, and she puts the plate down in front of me. I was like, no, you don't understand. I'm a vegetarian. And then she kind of looks again at me, kind of puzzled. And I was like, no. So my sister, my older sister, she says, Grandma, that means he doesn't eat meat. She's all like, So she takes the plate away and she says, I'm gonna make you a salad. So she brings back this big ass salad, ranch dressing all over it,
of course,
and bacon bits.
Well, did you?
And I had to eat it, and I had to eat it.
What's what you're supposed to do? So that was right.
I had, because I'm just sitting there looking at my sister, and she's all like, "You better eat that damn salad."
Right? Don't.
You better eat that, you bougie ass motherfucker. You better eat that salad. And I'm like eating around the bacon bits. Anyway, yeah. That I don't know. I don't even know how I got there.
Well, I have a niece who's a vegetarian, and
Mhm.
my mom will always make like a big pot of pinto beans, and my mom forgot, and she made it with a big ham hock in it, and we're all eating beans and chili. The whole family's there, and Becca's next to me, and I look at her, and she's like, there's ham in there, and she's like, I know. And I was like, good girl.
I'm going to eat around it. I know I'm going to be sick tomorrow, but I know. It's fine.
Yeah.
How long, when did you leave Phoenix?
I left Phoenix when I was 19. So that was 1987. And so that was the last time I lived in Arizona, like for reals. Yeah.
Where did you go?
I came to New York. And then I went to acting school, and I was here for 11 years. And then I moved to Los Angeles and got in a lot of trouble there. And then I moved to Little Rock, Arkansas. And then I moved back here. I've been back here about 12 years, I think. Yeah, I know.
I don't even know. There's so many questions because, like, I'm picturing 19-year-old little Mexican Charles Sanchez, high booty, firm titties, going to New York, right?
Right, with my tap shoes. Oh, yeah.
Tap shoes. Now, you get to New York, and are you out by then? Have you become a lady?
Mm-mm. No, I was in the closet. I was going to acting school because God has a sense of humor. There were no other gay guys in my acting class. It was all these straight guys and women. And yeah. So I was in the closet for a while. But I did like have my first gay bar and my first, the firsts that we have. And I was young and I was horny and I was scared and had a brain full of Catholicism and evangelical Christianity in my head that I was trying to shake off and figure out who I was.
Did that I'm always, this question that I want to ask always is the weirdest way to ask it. Now, I know that when I first started having the love that dare not speak its name, my first tryst, if you will, was with a white guy. For many different reasons, but it's where I felt, I don't know, it felt like I wasn't being shamed for being a sissy, more along the lines of adored for being an object. And that's a whole nother thing that I had to learn to unpack.
Yeah.
So my question to you is, when you found yourself in love's grips, if you will, was it most frequently the Latinness that brought them to you?
I don't know. I always felt, and I felt this way in a lot of different aspects of my life, that I wasn't quite like Mexican enough or Latin enough. Either they would see me and think I was a certain thing, and then when they spoke to me, I wasn't that thing. But it happened similarly with acting when I was a young actor in New York trying to get work, and I wasn't a gang member. I wasn't those things that were casting on Law and Order.
You didn't fit into that stereotype.
I didn't fit into that stereotype, and so I think that happened often in if you see me from across a crowded room and I don't have a shit-eating grin on my face, you might think that I look tough. I don't know, maybe. But I don't know what other people's impressions are made from across a crowded room, right? But I think that I always felt like I had to really be a lot to trick somebody into tricking. I had to do a lot of dancing. I had to do a lot.
Uh-huh. So if
Come
I'm
on, come on.
the dangerous one, I'm the funny one.
I'm the fun one.
I'm the
Yeah.
fun one.
Right.
I've been there.
Yeah.
I'm the safe one. I've always been the safe one. I'm a little sassy.
Yeah.
I'll tell you how it is, but you don't have to worry about me stealing your purse because I don't want it.
Wow. And have you I've experienced that where someone was afraid that I was going to pilfer. And that's a weird thing to be accused of when you're
One of my favorite stories in the entire world. Picture it. Here I am in Denver, and I'm on my way.
just that is a lot. Here I am in Denver.
Yeah,
That's
I moved here from Denver.
a huge thing. That's
So here I am in
your
Denver.
boots and your little hat and your little
I am
muff.
I'm corporate Barbie at this point. She is wearing, like, I have on my business drag. I am looking my best. And I'm in the elevator. I get in the elevator. I work at this time on the 14th floor. And the building that I worked in had like 20 or 30 floors. So I get on the elevator, and then this white woman gets on the elevator in her mid to late death. And so she and I make eye contact. And excuse me, that was rude. So she and I make eye contact. And she immediately grabs her purse, like she's hanging on to it, and she's like white knuckling this purse. And at this point, I start to chuckle. And by floor 3, I'm giggling. By floor 5, I'm in fucking hysterics. I'm like in tears, and it's just she and I on this elevator. And at this point, I am legitimately crying because I cannot control myself. The elevator door opens on 13, and I look at her and I was like, I don't want anything out of that discount Kmart bag anyway, you bitch. And I did.
How did I know that it was like some cheap ass little vinyl?
I couldn't. It was eating me up. Like tears streaming down my face. I was laughing so hard, and she's just like, ooh, ooh.
But it's so interesting. Like she couldn't see anything but the color of your skin. Like
Nothing.
she couldn't see that you were put together, that you were fabulous, that you were obviously employed, all those things. Like the only thing she saw was
The black.
the black. Wow.
Now, that same situation could happen. And well, for instance, the other day, Scott and I were at the pharmacy, and we're standing waiting in line. We have our little masks on. We're having a little conversation. And this young lady, Scott's standing right next to me. She walks down the aisle, walks directly in front of me, and then cuts to the left. But to my left are pill bottles. So she's making her space between me and the pill bottles during the time of coronavirus.
Right.
And I say to her, and she says, no, excuse me, no, nothing. And she says, I was like, or you could have just said, excuse me. That's all I said. You could have just said, excuse me. I don't understand and she just attacks me. And I look at her and I say, young lady, because I'm at that age now where I feel like I can say that, even though I know it's condescending, and I'm trying really hard to stop myself from saying it. I still felt it coming out of me. I still felt the young lady, but I said, young lady. Young lady. It is common practice when you are cutting in front of somebody, you say, excuse me. Well, I don't speak very loudly. I can hear you right now. I can hear you right now. Well, I need you to. I was like, no. Well, first of all, your tone. I was like, you cannot. You are not allowed to police my tone. I understand that I'm a deliciously beautiful Black man, but you have no right of policing my tone. And she says, well, I'm Puerto Rican. I was like, that still gives you no right to police my tone. You
To
have
be
no
rude,
right
first of all, like,
to
wait a minute.
police my Blackness.
Oh my God.
How dare you? And all I'm asking is for the sheer courtesy of an excuse me. It is not my fault that your parents neglected to teach you manners. That is not my fault. And we should not be held responsible for your parents' failings.
Well, and I don't even blame the parents. I blame her. Because she
saw her. That I felt like parents.
She saw her some Sesame Street when she was little, you know? She watched a little Brothers. She knew a little bit of something. that kind of stuff amazes me. It always has. And when I'm thinking about your first question of when did you learn about race?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's been an evolution. I think it's been you learn by the way people treat you, and you realize certain things like, oh wow, they're treating me this way because I am gay, or because I am Latin, or because they're seeing me as other, as different.
They're seeing me as other.
And when I first moved to Little Rock, I was at the post office, and there was a Black woman in front of me. And I don't know, I was probably like third in line. The Black woman was at the desk, and she had a lot going on. What did I have to do? I was being patient. I probably had my earphones on, whatever. When she left, the guy in front of me turned around and he goes, well, you know how they are. And I was looking around like, and I thought, I didn't say anything. I think I probably just smiled because I was new in town. I don't know what's going on, but I thought to myself, I'm kind of closer to her than I am to you. Like, very, very strange. And like, what, you don't really know racism in its purest form unless you're down south.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's in the water.
It's in
the ranch dressing.
Well, you know what's really interesting about the South is the racism in the South is very direct. You know exactly how you're expected to act by the way that the people in the room react to you. What I found about the racism up here is I haven't, strangely enough, growing up in Mississippi and a lot of the South as I did, I don't remember being called an N-word until I was in the North.
Wow.
I remember, well, for a brief moment, I lived in Michigan as an adult with my older sister and her children. And I went out to this bar. It was north of 8 Mile, so on the white side of town. And I'm in this bar, and it was just a sea of white guys, gay bar. And one white guy comes up, pitch and woo. Another white guy comes up, pitch and woo. Fourth white guy comes up, pitch and woo. And I'm like, I'm fine. Then the first white guy comes up, and he comes back around because it's getting late. He's all like, he says, we don't like your kind around these parts unless y'all doing something for us.
Wow.
And I said, excuse me? He's all like, yeah, N-word night is on Thursdays.
Wow.
All right.
At a gay bar. Like, I don't know.
Charles, girl.
I know I'm not surprised, but
don't be naive with me. Don't be naive.
I know. It's always surprising.
I have been at bars before, standing, minding my own Christian business, reading the New Testament. And guys will come up to me and I'm all like, no, I'm with my friends, or I'm not interested, or I'm not this, or I'm not that. Well, fuck you, you dirty N-word. Going back to the ghetto. Go and do this, go and do that. You ain't about trash anyway. You probably an ex-con. All of these things have been said to me. And I'm like, okay, you could, but I wasn't all those things when you came up here the first time.
Yeah, that's, and I mean, I've had not to that extent, because I think the N-word is, I mean, there is no insult that is as cutting or as horrible in my head. Like, I've been called spick, I've been called other things, but I don't think it's as so packed with meanness.
Well, I find that that's a word, especially when being hurled as an insult, as it's used as a weapon, and it's used by inferior people when they have no other recourse but to revert to that. If you have no basis for your argument, if you have no other thing but to insult me in that particular way, I knew you weren't about shit anyway.
Right. And it's, you know, like that dude specifically was insulted. So I'm gonna hit you
right to the jugular. Yeah. And and what you expect is for me to pop off. Right. And for me to act in such a way that gets me that brings negative attention on me.
And isn't that interesting that that's the result? Like, instead of, I'm going to try to be more charming, I'm going to try to be more whatever, I'm going to lash out and be a jerk. I mean, it is getting late, and if we're at the you might stage of the night, then you better, like, come on, at least
do something, buy a bitch a drink or something.
Right, like, yeah, so that's amazing and awful, but not unsurprising. In, you know, racism is not surprising anymore. It's just, I mean, it is and it isn't. I'm always amazed, and then I'm like, oh, right.
Oh yeah, America.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, it's just America.
And it is surprising to me. It's always surprising to me and unsurprising to me at the same time.
Do you find there's still racial disparity? Well, I know that there is, and to the extent of, especially even with the access of care in HIV, in regard to race.
I think there is. I think that I'm very privileged, and I don't even know why I'm privileged. But I have not had to personally deal with a lot of difficulty getting care, or like, I've had amazing doctors. I've had I've been very lucky, and I think it's probably just luck. But I think that when there is financial disparity, that's a big problem. So when you don't have a lot of options, then you don't have a lot of options. And then you have to deal with what you have to deal with. And if you are someone who maybe is illegal, which I hate that word.
Undocumented.
Undocumented.
There's no such thing as an illegal person.
Right. And even undocumented is not a good word. Like it's if you are a person who is not from America, and maybe English isn't your first language, and maybe you don't have a professional job, white collar, you just have less choices.
Yeah.
And
it traps you.
It traps you.
And subpar care.
Yeah.
Not
and how do you
know? Care it exists, but it's the people responsible for that care are generally overworked and underpaid. Those people are the amazing people doing that work are trying their absolute best, but when there are 12 providers for 1 million people,
right?
And
to find out, I need to see this kind of a doctor, and I don't have insurance, or they don't take Medicaid,
or that
that I think is kind of despicable. But and it's somewhat classist.
Mm-hmm.
I talked to my doctor about it one time because he was switching plans, and I was on Medicaid and Medicare. I had both, and
Mm-hmm.
so there was a little weirdness with my insurances. And I said, like, why don't you take Medicaid? And he goes, because I can't take care of everybody. And he goes, it's a way for me to make my practice manageable.
Mm-hmm.
And he wants to make money. Everybody wants to make money. He's a doctor, and he's a good doctor. He deserves it, and I'm fortunate that I can go to him, and I have choices. But
I haven't been as fortunate. I found a doctor right now that I absolutely adore. I found her once many, many moons ago, and we like crossed in ships like by the night. And when I met her, she's this amazing, interesting, African American, very, very intelligent doctor. I have an affinity for female doctors. My mother's a nurse. It's just I have a thing about female doctors. I've only seen one male doctor in my entire life, and I didn't really enjoy it. Anyway, she reminded me, this particular doctor reminded me a lot of the doctor that I had back in Colorado, who I saw for 17 years, give or take. Anyway, so the doctor I have in between the one that I have now, and I have never experienced a doctor that wouldn't treat me because of my race. I had never experienced a doctor brushing off my concerns because of my race. I had never experienced that before until I started seeing one particular doctor here in the city.
Wow.
And the level of treatment that I received from this doctor was staggeringly bad. And I won't say bad, I'll say subpar. And every time I spoke with this doctor, I would feel as if it was my questions were an imposition.
Mm.
And the last straw for me was when the doctor came in and said, I'm changing your medication, not let's have a conversation about your medication.
Right.
And when that, having been positive now, I'm 23 years, I think.
Wow.
Every time I've changed medication, every time I've done anything, every time because I live my life a very specific way. And every time I do anything, I have an open conversation with the doctor that's treating me. It's like, you're my person. I get to, it's like these are the things that I want to do with my body. Tell me, is it medically sound? But when you make a decision on my body's behalf, I can't allow that.
Yeah, you work for me.
You work for me.
I know you're a doctor, but you work for me. Do you feel a better connection with your doctor because she's African American?
That is only a small part of it. I feel a connection with my doctor because my doctor speaks to me as if I'm a person and not a number. She speaks to me and wants to be a partner in my care. Because ultimately you can tell me anything that you want medically advice, but the minute I leave this office, I'm going to live my life the way that I want to.
Yeah.
So either we're going to be partners with this, or I'm going to go out and find a doctor who will.
Yeah, I feel the same way about my doctor. He knows who I am when I call.
Mm-hmm.
And he knows who I am specifically, not just, he knows who Charles Sanchez is.
Exactly.
And I feel very comfortable talking with him openly about everything. And that's very, very important. And it's a plus to me. He's Mexican American. He's from Texas. He used to be a musician before he went to medical school. So he has like a creative side. He's also dreamy looking.
Oh, dreamy.
Dreamy. He really, he's dark and handsome.
I made the choice to only have female doctors. Granted, the doctor that diagnosed me, male, he was a male doctor, very, very, very nice man. Then he sold his practice to this, oh my God, I love her so much. Her name is Dr. Mia Scott out of Colorado, out of Denver, Colorado. I adore her. I would go see her today. She's amazing. I would call her up. I remember because at one point in my life, I was a raging hypochondriac. I thought I had everything. I went to her office one day. This speaks to my.
I'm like vegetarian, vegan, hypochondriac. You're a dream. Go ahead. I'm in.
Didn't Scott luck out?
He's off camera going, "Oh my God! Oh my God!"
No, but when I was new in my HIV, I was very, very, very concerned about environmental, like if anything, if I got sick at all. And then I knew that from everything that I was being told, I'm Black, so I'm going to die first. So I'm going to not get the level of care first. I'm not going to. So I was hyper sensitive to environmental things. I remember going to the doctor, Dr. Mia Scott, and I was like, okay, Dr. Scott, I think I have SARS. And she says, have you been to Asia? I was like, no. Have you been out of
inside she went like this.
Have you been out of the country? No. So like, I can't even believe I'm going to say this. She says, why do you think you have SARS? And she even leaned in and did the Oprah listening pose. And I was like, well, I went out on a date with this Asian guy last night, and she walked out of the room. And I was half kidding, but because Dr. Scott is Filipino, and she just says, Jonathan, I want you to know that that's not how that works. Do you think that Black people have jungle fever? And then we just started laughing.
Wow,
We laughed and laughed and laughed. But that was the kind of care that, it was just a really good environment for my experience. I think that I've managed in my care to be surrounded by people of color, because I have a hard time being treated honestly by white doctors and nurses. I've never had a good experience.
I have felt much more comfortable with doctors that are of color. Like I had a hip replacement. I had both my hips replaced actually a few years back, and the doctor was from India, and he was amazing and really compassionate and wonderful. I had a doctor recently that was not of color, that did a different surgery on me, and he was a wonderful surgeon. He did everything good. Yay, the surgery worked. But which is the biggest thing. But he wasn't quite like charming, and he wasn't quite, and he just sort of, I felt judged in some way, and I really had to examine, is that from me, or is that from him, or is that something I don't get from my regular doctor, or I don't get from, and like for example, my regular doctor a few years ago, and he's handsome, right? So I'm always trying to be a little bit like I can tell him stuff, but when someone's handsome, they're handsome. They can't help it. Right. And I had a little issue in my behind area, and I was trying to, like, that happens in normal life. And he goes, well, I didn't need to do an exam. And he could tell, I don't know that I even said anything. I was just like, and he went, okay, Charles, it's 9 a.m. This isn't even in the top. I've looked at 5 butts already today. I'm your doctor. And then he looked, and then he, told me what to do. Everything's fine. I'm sitting with you today is the end of the story. Here I am.
Mm-hmm.
Picture of health. But I think that, it is a difference in how we're treated. And I don't know if it's anything that's conscious on their side or not. I'm sure it's different from person to person and doctor to doctor, but I am more comfortable and I feel more relaxed and I feel less like I'm being talked down to.
Yes.
When I'm with a person of color and of any color, like it's just, oh yeah, there's something that, well, yeah, me, yeah, you, yeah.
Like, I feel like I can be seen as a person, as a living, breathing human, not just something that's on a chart and a bunch of diseases.
Right. And something that you've done. Like, I think that especially when you're living with HIV, there is a presumption of dirtiness.
Yes.
Or something that you did. And I'm sure there's on some level, take that on myself on some level, whatever. But I think that you can see it in someone else. Whether you're at a bar and you're talking about your life, and you're meeting somebody new, or you are at a doctor's office or anywhere else, you can see there's several reactions that can happen when you tell someone you have HIV or they read it in your chart or whatever. There's either a judgment, there's a "you're so brave," right? Thank you for telling.
Thank you.
Oh, I feel
so honored.
Right, for trusting me with that. Right, the concerned tilted head. Or the person who's just like, oh yeah, whatever, it's Tuesday, and that's the best, is the Tuesday person. Who's just like, really, and you're wearing that, like, oh, okay, cool, we can talk.
I found that a lot when I was younger and singler. It's like early 2000s when I was like, because at first couple of years of my conversion, if you will, I was trapped in a situation with a person who HIV wasn't even on the list of things that I was being berated for. Most of it was my blackness, because he was kind of a racist, but that's that was something to unpack. When I would say, I'm positive, the one question I always hated, and I got more frequently from white guys than anyone else: how'd you get it?
Prison.
And
prison.
Duh. In the shower, dropping soap.
That's how you get it.
Duh, I'm black. That's how we get it.
Oh.
I used to, at one point in my life, I would answer that question because I felt like I needed to justify. Then I was talking to a friend, and he said, "Why you keep telling these fuckers?" I was like, "Well, because they asked." He's all like, "That's not their business. If you want to tell them, that's one thing. But why are you telling these why are you telling these bitches? And that was my friend Jamie Carpenter from many, many moons ago. And I look back and I was like, you know what? Why am I? How dare you take whatever happened to me in my past and judge me for it in my current?
It is. It's a judgment, and even I think even by telling you're like putting your defenses up, there's a judgment on yourself by doing that. One of the most empowering things someone said to me in a similar vein, I think, is your HIV was not your fault. And that was really like eye-opening for me, because I think on some level I'd always thought, well, of course it was my fault.
Of course it was my fault.
And,
I did it. I shouldn't have done it. I did.
Right.
I did. Oh my God, now what are people going to think about me? Blah, blah, blah. And I churned in that for a minute.
I think that's natural.
Yeah.
I can't imagine anybody who doesn't think on some level that it was their fault for the, especially if you're a gay man and you got it the old fashioned way. That's what I got HIV the old fashioned way.
Light stretching.
I had too much rage dressing that day. But yeah, I think that's really powerful when you find that you don't need to justify who you are. It's just another aspect of who you are. And like, so what made you Black? Like it's a similar thing of like,
so you don't really act Mexican. What's up with that?
One of my favorite things like that, I was at a Thanksgiving dinner in Little Rock. My friend Claire's family. So I really only knew 2 or 3 people at the dinner table, seated next to someone I didn't know. And this woman was talking about all the Mexicans that are coming into town as all these Mexicans. And I just kind of let it go. And I'm like, And then finally I said, like, there's a Z at the end of my last name, right? Like, look at me. And she went, oh, but you're not like those Mexicans. Well, which Mexicans do you mean, darling? The people, you mean? The people. The people. So yeah, that's another thing that's like ridiculous about being a person is having your stuffness questioned. And I don't think people do that with white people.
No, never. Because white people get to be normal.
Yeah.
It's whiteness is normality in America.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting?
Actually, no, that's not true. Whiteness is normality globally.
Is it really globally?
Globally, because if you look at many different places, many different parts of the world, where everyone's always generally judged at their relationship with whiteness.
Right, like
you look at movies from
dark-skinned, light-skinned.
It's in your association with whiteness.
That's something in the African American community, Black community, that I didn't even really understand, or maybe like that. You're darker, so you're less than. You're lighter, so you're like. I didn't understand the gradations of interior racism in the Black community.
But that happens I've had many a Mexican lover, and I've had conversations with many a Mexican with the same colorism in their experience as well.
Yeah, I never had that growing up, I guess. Like that's not in my family. We don't talk that way. We like it that we tan well. Like that's so we don't I've never experienced that. I've experienced not feeling Mexican enough, but that's because I'm American. I don't speak Spanish. That's a different matter. It had nothing to do with my skin color or that. So that was something that I had to be like, I had to see it and be taught it and read it and like, oh, that's weird.
Yeah.
And it's weird.
Yeah. And then we have, it took till 2020 for the world to finally, well, 2017 or so, for the world to finally embrace the beauty in dark skin.
Is that what's your marker? Is that the year
Global
Halle
success,
Berry?
like, no, who?
I was saying, is that the year Halle Berry won the Academy Award? What?
How very goddamn dare you? No, marker. Strangely, you know where the dial started to change? Lupita Nyong'o.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
That's when the marker changed, because there's this beautiful supermodel by the name of Alex Wei. She's Sudanese, I believe. Very, very dark.
Oh, I know who she.
Skin,
Yes.
short hair.
She's stunning. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I know who you mean.
Stomp in the yard for decades, but she was always, models of her complexion were rarities. Naomi, rarities. But the minute Lupita hit the world, they're like, oh my God, chocolate girls. Oh my God, browns, big, beautiful, glorious, dark-skinned girls. And then the standard of beauty in the country changed. It adjusted. But I still don't think it's gone far enough.
No. Well, I mean,
especially even with, not to cut you off for anything, but the standard of gay beauty, or what we consider handsome in the gay world, has still not necessarily caught up, because all of our gay literature, all gay movies, all of those things generally feature white men.
right, and young, white, handsome,
Muscular.
yeah. Like even like we have our types. Like everything is a type. Like if you're a big fella, you're a bear. If you're like, and for someone like me, I'm not a daddy. I'm not a bear. I'm not those. I don't fit in those things. I'm Charles. Is that okay?
Is that okay?
I'm
a sparkly unicorn. Deal with it.
And
here's my category.
Not to come back to my web series, but one of the things that that made me want to write my web series to begin with was like I don't see a lot of gay characters that are my age, that have a sex life, that are living with HIV and are not sad, sick, or dying. This is like no one else is writing the story.
And I love it. Merce is so funny.
Thank you.
It is so funny. The songs are so catchy. I love it. I want everyone to watch it, y'all.
Thank you. But it really was a reflection of, I don't see me on television. I don't see me or stories about my kind. And as an aging person living with HIV, to not have any kind of representation, and we don't have, as in the HIV world, there's nothing happening in the as far as major media productions regarding HIV right now. I just finished watching It's a Sin, coming out of London. It's on HBO Max. I think it's starting on HBO Max this week.
Okay.
I got a preview, and it's good. It's not great. It's good.
Okay.
But we're so hungry for anything that I think it's going to be very popular, because we don't have anything else.
Just living.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it takes place. Well, this takes place during the AIDS crisis.
Oh.
And so it's actually as the AIDS crisis is unfolding. So it's a story. It's a history lesson. It's not.
I saw the trailer for that. Yeah, I saw the trailer. I'm gonna have to watch that.
It's interesting. One of the things that I kind of think is funny about that, and I'm going to write about this for The Body, is that the advertising for it is that it's this joyous romp, And it's not like Priscilla, Queen of the Desert with AIDS. There are moments of levity. There are moments of like sexual joy, and that's fun. And there are fun, but it's not a madcap romp through Britain in the 80s. It's and it is this like these kids, there's 20 somethings that like form their own family, and as AIDS starts infiltrating their world, and it's devastating. So that's what I thought. I thought it was really much more devastating, and I think that part is really accurate. But I just wonder, how much of a history lesson do we really need again? Maybe I'm just not the audience, but maybe it's for those kids. It's for the kids.
But then if we show stories like that, what I'm always uncomfortable with is when we show our AIDS history, it's always segregated, like all of our history is. It's showing, if you're watching a white AIDS story, it's something different, it's sweeping, it's romantic, it's beautiful, it's sad, it's like it gives you all the heartstrings, where it's supposed to, you walk away feeling just like hopeful, but you watch a Black AIDS story or a Latin AIDS story and you feel dirty and gutted and violated. And I don't think that they're not told with the same care. And the people who are writing this movie historically have also written this movie.
Yeah.
And I don't feel it's fair for these guys to tell this story, because you're looking at this story through a white lens, and that always skews the end result.
Absolutely. I think one of the things that was kind of nice about this show is that you have one main character who's Black and one main character who is mixed race, Black and white, and she's actually sort of the angel. She's the fag hag of the group, the fruit fly of the group. But she's like the angel of the story.
What is this called?
It's a sin.
It's a sin.
It's a sin.
I'm gonna absolutely watch that on
HBO. HBO Max. Yeah, so it's worth watching. But you're like I already. This is gonna be. I'll just give you a clue. The last line of my review or my piece about it for The Body is gonna be, I liked it, but I'm not gonna get a T-shirt.
Okay. I understand that. One thing I will say, that if you're doing the preview for HBO Max, if you've not done so already, watch Judas and the Black Messiah.
I've heard mixed things about that. Tell me about it.
Okay. Before I watched the movie, I did some, a couple of casual light blues cluesing. I wanted to get an overall sweeping idea of what this film was about. When I watched it, now living with actor, director, creative as I do, he's taught me to look through the creative lens of a filmmaker. The way that this story is told, it leaves you curious about all three of the people that it kind of focuses on. Fred Hampton, Chairman Fred Hampton, this Bill, I can't remember Bill's last name, the other Black guy, then this FBI agent. It makes you very curious about this. Is it historically accurate? Meh. It's sweeping it's historically, it's like a game of telephone. So the big things are there, but the details are slightly off because they needed them for theatrical storytelling, and I get it. I I was moved in a way that when I went and read about the life of Chairman Fred Hampton, it was he was a magnificent human that the US government assassinated. That was my takeaway from that, and the counterpool that the US has constantly been doing on Black bodies that speak too loud. And that was my same takeaway from Antebellum. I know that it's a convoluted kind of a story, but if you look at it in a theatrical sense, it's how I feel when the US has a way of silencing people, of retraining those of us who speak too loudly about the hypocrisy of this country.
Yeah, it's really, and we're seeing it. I think we're seeing, when you talk about hypocrisy of this country, we're seeing it really boldly in how our government officials are talking about the insurrection that happened 6 weeks ago. It wasn't even a long time ago. It was, and we saw it on television. There was some GOP guy on MSNBC. They were quoting, I don't remember who it was. It was, because I kind of go like that. But he was saying, like, I don't know. They said it was this armed insurrection. I didn't see anybody that was armed. I don't think that anybody was armed. I think that that they're making a mountain out of a molehill. And then they said, well, so the MSNBC people were like, well, that's not what the police said. And then they played the police going, oh my God, they've got weapons, they've got fireworks, they're throwing poles at us. They're in real time saying we need backup. And yeah, but this white fucker from wherever, Alabama, I don't know, someplace
From Boom Hicksville.
is trying to sell the narrative that it wasn't that big of a deal and we've got it all in control, and law and order, America first.
Yeah, Law and Order, America first. Vote white.
Vote white.
Yeah, vote white. And
I should have that shirt. That's a great T-shirt. Vote white.
it's we're finally, and I was telling this to the guys from the last Comfortably Uncomfortable conversation, that we are seeing America, or shall I say, liberal white America is seeing the America that actually has always existed.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It is America is operating exactly the way it's designed. But now what Trump did was embolden everybody to the fever pitch of Andrew Jackson.
Yeah.
And so he's gone. He's not forgotten. And I know that there is more to this story, because the Hillbillies on the Hill was just, it was like the pre-show. That was like dress rehearsal.
Yeah, and it's one of the dangers of kicking Trump off Twitter and other people like that off Twitter and off of other social media platforms, is then they go into darker, hidden, we don't know where they are.
Mm-hmm.
That makes me a little worried. The other thing that made me worried about the election specifically was in talking to people from around the country and finding out how many people, there were people who were like, I'm bleeding heart liberal. I am, I'm so blue. I'm blue.
Mm-hmm.
I bleed blue. I'm blue. And I don't mind saying it. And you can call me a snowflake. And yes, motherfucker, I am.
Mm-hmm.
I want to give away abortions. That's how, like I am just like whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But there are a lot of people who are middle and who who think that Trump was joking. He didn't really mean that when he said that. Things like that. That I actually heard out of people's mouths, that I was like, Trump doesn't joke, he's not funny. So there was that shocked me.
Mm-hmm.
And also the realization that people really do vote for one issue.
Mm-hmm.
no matter what else. So Trump is who Trump is.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, I know, but I'm voting for him because he's anti-abortion. And that actually, I had that conversation.
And then, okay. Whew,
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry.
I'm a gay man, and I know that I will never have an opinion about abortion. I know that I will never have so because I don't have a vagina. I don't have a uterus. I don't think that it is my right to vote on what a woman should do with her body. Period. I don't believe that any man should. If you want to have an abortion, have one. If you don't want to have an abortion, don't have one.
Here's my stance on it. My stance on abortion is that abortion is not about babies.
No.
Abortion is about controlling people.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically controlling poor people.
Yep.
Because rich people will always be able to get an abortion when they want one. They'll either be able to pay a doctor, or they'll be able to go to some other country and get one. They'll just be able to. They have choices.
You know that this country used to do forced hysterectomies.
Oh yeah.
On Black and brown women.
Yeah, we just did hysterectomies on some of the women at the border.
Yeah.
A couple months ago.
Yeah.
And tried to keep it a secret and stuff.
Yes.
Cute.
Don't tell anybody. We credit you. So this the further we can get away from this narrative of this white male dominated society, the closer we will be to equality for every person on the planet. That it's my belief, but I think that it's going to take a lot of very, very uncomfortable realizations. And as I'm talking with a lot of people, now that it's Black History Month, I've been talking to a lot of teachers.
Go ahead.
And I'm talking with teachers because I want to know when they teach. Well, I'm sorry, what they teach. And if you're teaching the same history that you and I learned 30 plus years ago.
Yeah, more, yeah.
And we're still teaching these same lies to our children. We're still indoctrinating our children into the lie of white supremacist America.
Right. If we're still teaching Thanksgiving without context.
If we're still teaching, if we're still separating American history from Mexican history,
all right,
from Native American history, from African American history, from Asian American history. If we're segregating those histories, what we're doing is we're teaching American history, i.e., white history.
Yeah.
And then, so when we invite these other histories in, it's a counter narrative to everything that we've been taught thus far. It's like, well, while this was happening, oh yeah, these people were trying real hard to do this, like, you know, me.
It's like, this is the white history, and all these other histories are just like off to the side.
Yes. They don't affect this history.
Right. And we don't think about things like, unless we listen to a podcast or something about like, oh, right, we brought all those Chinese people like from China to build the railroad.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But we don't teach that history.
That is so weird and gross and like so weird.
You know that I was an adult before I realized that they put Japanese people in concentration camps in the United States. I wasn't taught that in Mississippi.
I had I think I don't remember if I read it or if I heard it or what, but I remember hearing this story of someone saying that when they were a kid and they went into this camp, that it was just like they felt like they understood why they were being taken there, and we're at war, and they sort of felt like it was their American duty, even though they were Americans. And because wouldn't we be going, I'm not, wouldn't we be?
I often think about myself in different timelines, and I know, because of my big ass mouth and my smart ass inquisitive personality, I would not have lived very long, because I all of these things that we're continuing to indoctrinate our kids about are stupid. It's stupid. And we keep saying, we're a colorblind society, we're post-racial, but that's all bullshit.
Yeah,
Because if we're not strong enough to deal with our past, we can't have a future.
Well, I will say this, on a like a hopeful note, or on a like, there have been things in my life that have surprised me deeply. For example, when gay marriage was made the law of the land, it surprised me deeply. I thought it would never happen in my lifetime. And I also thought, this has nothing to do with me. I'm not even dating. I'm single. I'm lonely. I'm whatever. And it made a big difference. It made me feel something that it lifted a weight that I didn't know was there or something. And it also made me feel like a big dose of hope that I hadn't had in a while. And I feel the same way about Buttigieg, for being as not perfect as he is, for getting as far as he did in the presidential race, and having a seat at the table, having his husband be super gay. And I just love that he's like my husband, and I just think they're adorable, and that they're unapologetic about who they are as a couple. And I find that very, very hopeful. And as much as I get grossed out about a lot of things, I'm like, yeah, but we do have Kamala, and that's a big deal.
That's a big deal.
Big deal on a lot of different levels. She was not my choice. She was not my first choice. But it doesn't matter. She's the one that's up there, and she's second in command, and she's, if God forbid, I'm not even gonna say it, but she's second in command. So I find that extremely hopeful, and not something that I expected to really happen in my lifetime. So I'm like, oh, cool. What's going to come up? What do I have to look forward to?
You know what I'm hopeful about? I'm hopeful that we finally have gotten to a point in our evolution that we're strong enough to deal with the sins of our past. I'm hopeful that we can negotiate our way through a conversation that results in equality and true equality for every person. I don't care if you like me. I don't give a fuck about that. What I care about is that I have the same opportunity on the same playing field as you do.
I have a question about Black History Month.
Yes.
Are you speaking deeper because it's Black History Month? Are you speaking a little?
No.
That would be so great if you were like, it's Black History Month.
It's Black History Month.
If all of a sudden you're all Lou Rawls about that.
Give you some Barry White seduction up in here.
Right? Absolutely. That'd be so great. You'll never find.
I would burn this place down.
Well, you know, when it's Hispanic Heritage Month,
Mhm.
you know, I eat extra tacos that month for sure.
I, you know, isn't it really funny that super racist people love tacos?
Everybody loves tacos. Do you know what
But
the number one? Do you know what the number one condiment is in America?
taco sauce, salsa,
Salsa. Even
salsa.
more than ketchup.
Hmm.
Salsa.
Hmm.
So you love us. You gotta love us.
Hmm. Hmm. I'm gonna go to that Crayon rally, but I'm gonna stop by that Taco Bell and get me some of them chimichangas.
Well, Taco Bell is not Mexican food.
I know,
All right.
I know, I know.
But I have some Taco Bell every now and again.
Mm-mm,
But it's Taco Bell.
mm-mm. No, girl, I'm in love now. I can't eat Taco Bell.
Well, I haven't in a long time. There's one. They opened a Taco Bell in my neighborhood, like I don't know, 6 months ago, and I'm like, oh, cool. It's good to know that you're there. And I have not been, so I've not been to a Taco Bell in years. But I feel comforted knowing.
Uh-huh. I had an illicit love affair for many, many years with Chipotle, but then I fell in love and I couldn't eat that anymore either.
Oh, for you. Wow, that's a whole thing. That's a lot
Mm-mm.
happening.
No, because you one Chipotle burrito. No,
Well,
ma'am.
that sounds like some other issues. You might need to go and see your doctor about
No,
that.
I'm no fiber. No, no, no. You eat Chipotle
Okay, this is
one
all
time,
too
your
much.
digestive system is destroyed. Destroyed.
I don't have those issues.
Mm.
I don't have those issues.
That's because, well, I don't know why. I eat very clean. I'm going to go eat organically right now, as a matter of fact.
Oh my goodness. Well, what am I having? I'm having some sort of like paleo. I think it's a pork chop, but it's all with like roasted vegetables and
Mhm, mhm. I'm going to do um, probably a jasmine rice with Jamaican curry chicken legs and collard greens with turkey bacon and onions.
all right. All right. Well, you're not that much in love if you're eating onions. There's not that much love happening.
What are you talking about? We put onions on everything. No.
Yeah, I don't have that issue either. People, a lot of that's actually I stole that from someone else. Like
Yeah. If you,
onions, you must not want to get kissed. I'm like, I don't have
I
those
don't have
problems.
that problem. I don't have onions. I
Do you
don't
know
have
what
a problem with garlic. You need to
all you
check
gotta
your
do?
diet.
Brush your teeth. Have you brushed your teeth? Just
Have
brush
you
your teeth.
brushed your teeth, girl?
Oh my gosh. Well, this
I
is
gotta go.
fun.
This was so much fun.
I love you, Jonathan.
I love you so much, Charles. Thank you very much
You're
for
most
having a
welcome.
conversation. And check out um, Merce. Tell me where we can find Merce.
Mercetheseries.com, MERCE, Merce the Series.
Mhm.
You can also try the hashtag the more you can hoe
The more you can hoe.
to find out. And Scott did the logo
God
for
did
the
do the logo.
campaign. It's
Yeah.
fabulous.
Mhm.
And also I write, I'm a contributing editor for Thebodydotcom.
Great
You
articles.
can check out my writing there. I write about 2 or 3 articles there a month.
Mhm.
Something should be coming out shortly. And I'm
And,
going to be writing about It's a Sin. So
and fun fact, you're going to be dropped next week. So it'll be in connection with the more you can hoe drop.
perfect.
All right.
Perfect. Perfect.
Turn this off.